Hello and a very good evening to all our viewers who are joining me in this live interaction on News 9's Facebook as well as YouTube page. Now, cybercrime is on the rise with each passing day, and with the cybercrime professionals dwindling in number in our nation, criminals have used this to their advantage by victimizing people left, right and center. So the NCRB's data stated that 44,546 cases of cybercrimes were registered in just 2019 as compared to 28,248 in 2018. And this particular year, the cases have increased by about 37% as per the survey. And most of these cases were examples of how victims got conned online for sharing their OTPs. Now, in a similar case, an SBI account user has lost a lion's share of her savings to an online fraud. Now, according to a Twitter post, the victim allegedly got a call from two numbers at about 4 p.m. on the 3rd of November. And in the call, the fraudsters spoke about redeeming reward points. And these fraudsters were posing as the SBI bank officials. And what followed after that was a flurry of more than 15 SMSs and also emails and OTPs from the fraudster who was posing as SBI within just a minute after the call. And the genuine emails about detecting suspicious activity were buried under the flurry of SMSs and also emails. So even though the victim blocked her card, a significant amount was siphoned off from her account by the fraudsters who posed as the SBI bank officials. Now, to tell us more about how one can avoid getting conned by such fraudsters, we have with us Phanindra, a cyber law expert. Many thanks for joining me in this live interaction, Mr. Phanindra. And my first question to you today is, what do you make of this fraud case?
See, first of all, this fraud, as you have rightly mentioned, this is not the first of its kind. Okay, this has been very often repeated, and especially in the recent days when you also mentioned cyber crimes have gone high. This is one of the modus operandi where people usually call, and we should also be cautious because this is the year end. Okay, so people usually suppose that you have some point somewhere, and before this year it has to be redeemed. So this is where people get actually blindfolded, so that the criminals get advantage of it.
So, Mr. Phanindra, now how can one avoid getting scammed in this particular way?
See, first of all, general principle is that no one asks you for a OTP. That is a simple and very standard principle to be maintained, including the bank officials, including the service providers, representatives, will not ask you for the OTP. Okay, this is a standard principle. If everybody follows this, unless and until the OTP is not shared, the fraud doesn't happen. I mean, I'm talking about general scenario.
Okay.
So this is one thing. Yeah.
Please go on, Mr. Phanindra.
Yeah. Second thing is that when you don't even have an account in some of the banks, for example, people ask you to give that information. Suppose somebody calls you from a bank saying that they are from SBI bank, for example, and they ask you, do you have an account in State Bank of India? And you say no. They would ask you, in which bank do you have the account then? Then you start sharing your information. So you have to understand the purpose of calling. If the person called you and asked you something, when that ends as a conversation, you should try avoiding to give any further information beyond that. Otherwise, in the flow of conversation, people generally tend to share some of the other information which might not be relevant at the initial part of the call.
So, Mr. Phanindra, now, awareness is very important. Where should this awareness come from? Don't you think the banks, should involve themselves in spreading the right kind of awareness against all of these cyber crimes?
See, when you ask me where should the awareness be started, the banks would usually say they have been doing enough. Saying that they have been sending, transactional SMS to all the, customers not to share your OTP. Nobody will ask you for the OTP. In the banking website, there has been alerts given. Okay, this is what bankers will say we can do it. But beyond this, we can't really help it. What is what the bankers would usually say. However, when you want to tackle this issue, first of all, you have to make Google as a party for this. Because when you lose some a transaction, for example, when you search for the customer care number of so and so banks, the fraudster's customer care number will appear in the Google search. People thinking that that is the right number they're going to call that particular number to get defrauded again. Suppose you do some Paytm transaction and there is a conflict, there is a issue with the Paytm payment to be done to the merchant or whoever. What would you do? Merchant will say, call up the customer care number. When you on Google search for Paytm customer care number, Google Pay customer care number, you actually see those numbers which actually belong to these criminals.
Yeah.
You would not know that this number belongs to criminals. When you call them, they'll act like they are the Google Pay or Paytm customer care executives. They try to take your account number. They'll try to send you OTPs. They are going to send you that confidence that you are genuinely talking to such a representative, and thinking that when you do such an OTP sharing, you would be again defrauded. So when you ask the solution is not just so simple.
That's true. Now, Mr. Panindra, after all, the victims would be hoping to get back their money. So, is the money recoverable from, victims, from the scamsters by victims who get, victimized by these online frauds? Is the money recoverable by any chance?
See, first of all, after the scam scam came to the knowledge of the victim, he has to immediately go and report this to the banker. Okay, and banker has to take cognizance of that. When I say cognizance, banker has to act on this complaint immediately. Banker cannot say, go to the police station and then get me a FIR copy. They cannot say that. And banker has a liability, because you should also understand that OTP, any transactions based on OTP, the banker can be held liable for that. In addition to your negligence that you shared your OTP, that's a different scenario. In spite of all those things, bankers can definitely be held liable if in case the case is reported within 24 hours of the transaction. And the banker has also power to call to the receiving branch. When you do a transaction, when the person lost the money from this account, the money should definitely go and land in some other account. And banker officially can place a request to freeze that money there, so the person cannot withdraw the money after that. So banker has a duty over there.
So now, Mr. Panindra, what is your tips for the people, for the viewers who are watching, against such OTP frauds?
See, one strong information what I want to share is that never ever share your OTP. However, people have heard this enough. In addition to this, if in case on the call, if somebody gives you that confidence that they have been calling you genuinely and you can share the OTP with them, immediately lodge a complaint. Even if there is a loss of money, go lodge a complaint before the banker and the police station. The banker and the police station cannot play a blame game. The police or the bank cannot say, because you have shared the OTP, we are not responsible. They cannot do that. They definitely would advise you that to be cautious in future. But because you are, you shared your OTP, they cannot say you are completely responsible and liable for that. Okay, even if there is a fraud, please approach the banker. Go with a written complaint to the banker. Banker should take the complaint and give you an acknowledgement. And mention the date and time of your such complaint before the banker. That is very important in this kind of claims. Okay, if the matter is reported before the bank and police station within 24 hours, there has been cases where the banker has been held liable, and the person who lost whatever the money he has lost, there is good chances of recovery of that money. Suppose, when I say recovery, the transaction can be reversed. That's what I mean. Okay, in terms of police complaint, yes, these people do organize, they actually run a very organized setup actually. These people sit in places like UP, Bihar and Jharkhand, and the whole people at the locality are into the same business. So it might be difficult law and order problem, but for the purpose of recovering the money, banker can be held liable.
Right, Mr. Panindra, many thanks for joining me in this live interaction. Well, there you heard it. The message is loud and clear. None of the banks will call you and ask you for an OTP. And if in case you get such a call, then you will have to remember that we had told you that no banker will ask for the OTPs. And this is the handiwork of the fraudsters, and this is their modus Aprandi, where they call up the victims and they ask them for OTPs, saying that you can redeem points from your bank's special services and later go on to con such people. So keep in mind all the tips shared by Mr. Panindra, and that will help you keep your money safe and sound in your bank accounts, and it will help you prevent yourself from getting victimized by such fraudsters. So if you guys have liked this piece of information that I've shared with you all today, please do drop in your comments, and also like, share and subscribe to News9 Digital on various social media platforms. Many thanks for joining us.